Okay, I hope it's visible. So let us start with the form, different form properties, or like the different sections of the forms. Okay. Okay. So first thing is this is like how we create a form. This is like a generic scenario. So we create the form, we configure based on our database, we add the data source, apply the pattern, and we do the build. So this is the simplest way of saying how we create a form, right? So for us, we have learned based on our understanding, based on the type of data what we need to show. This is our critical part. We add the data source. This is the first one, and the second part is adding the pattern, or how the patterns are working. And after adding the pattern, we have seen, right, by default system guides us how to create a form. Say add each section, what are the best practices. If you do not have not following those best practices, you have that form statistics window also, right? You can go ahead and see what are the, if there is no best practices maintained, if there is any deviation from best practice or any error, those things you also can see from the form of statistics. And also when you do the build, if you have enabled the best practices, so then you can see the best practices window shows you that okay, I have this many best practices to resolve before we do the complete compilation, right? So this is the mostly this is what we have seen from the form patterns, right? Now design layout, yeah, we have, like, these are the things we have discussed, right? We have shown you what is a group, what is a tab page. So these are kind of sections, like when we see a form. So form design is the root of that page. Then we have this group, right, general purpose group, where we can group few sections. Then we have tab pages, and button group if we have a small section of button. So so let us see that also. So I think this section, I think I have showed you already, but let me just again elaborate to see. Let us open a form, which is let's say, okay. So yeah, so if we see these patterns, so I think right now what the designs is saying. So if you relate to the slide, so we have our this section. So main design node, then we have our group, tab page, and button, right? So if similarly, if we see this, then main design node, then we have our group, tab, and under the tab we will see all our tab pages and all our button groups, everything, correct? So once I select, so this comes, once I select this detailed transaction pattern, by default these three section is coming up, correct? My action pane means simply this part, all these sections where we are actually can divide each section, and so we set our button group. So if you go to this action pane, you will see this is a button group, right? This is a complete button group. Then we have action pane tab. Under this action pane tab, then also we have this button groups. So what do I mean by button group? Button group is simply nothing but my this part, this section. Let it get open. Okay, so let me explain in the middle. So if I mean, maybe if it is not visible from here, but these are the section for each button group. So you will see and you will understand. So again, each tab we can define a button group, and under that button group we can define all my buttons here. See all these buttons, I can see it from here. And what is menu item button, display menu item button, those things we'll learn in next after half an hour. Okay. So this is my total design of the form. So by default, the system is guiding us to add these three sections, which is my action pane, group, and tab. And under this action pane, we have this option to create this button group, or maybe create some small buttons. Maybe so let's say if you are creating a small form where you do not have so many groups to include, correct? Then you do not need so many different action tab. Then you can go ahead, create one tab, which is this one, and then under that tab you can create one button group, and under that button group all your buttons will be there. We do not need to go and create that. So the best practice or the right way of doing it, under every action pane tab we add a button group, and under that button group we create those buttons. This is the best way of doing it. Okay, so this is nothing but the new button, new all these things. So let me show you that. Yeah, okay. So if you see this form, see here, these forms, these are my action pane, right? This is this complete area, tab page area, this is my action pane. Okay, now under this section, if you see all these things, these are all action pane tab. If you understood from here, see this sales order, sale, manage, pickup. See, all these are my tabs. Sale, manage, pickup, all these are my tabs, right? Under this action pane tab, we have this button. Once we have new, maintain, copy, view, all these are buttons, so that it is easier for us to identify and group the similar functions, similar type of buttons into a same category, which is this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Similarly, if you go to general, you will see 5 different sections, and you will see all these buttons. And based on this, see some buttons you are seeing, but these are disabled. Based on the properties, data, or conditions, these buttons will be enabled or disabled. Okay. Similarly, for invoice, you will see all these buttons disabled now, but some buttons will be enabled and some will be disabled. Okay. So these are my concept of action pane header, and under this action pane header we have this action pane tab, and then we have this button group. So this is how we are designing my action pane. My navigation list is nothing but my this part. Here we have a navigation list, right? And navigation list here, this is my navigation list here, and we have the filter window, and then we have our main tabs, right? These are my main tab, and under the main tab, like we have seen yesterday, we have two kind of view, like details view and the grid view. This is my grid view where I can see only the data, and if I open this form, then if you remember, we have that complete detail structure, correct? So let me show you the detail structure. Yeah, this is the complete detail structure where you have this line view, header view, and under this every view, then you can go ahead and create that, right? So again, if you see the sales order lines, if you see that there are so many different buttons, right? These are also, let me show you this part also, how we can do that. Okay, see this is the action, this is the area. Like if you click here, you will see able to see this area here. See, these are my buttons. As I said, line pane, action pane, strip. This strip is this one. This is the strip. So this is like not a I mean not easy to do or easy to build, right? Because here if you go to sales order related, there are 1,000 related informations are there, and we always use this information, right? So we can select any line, go ahead and update this line. We have so many things. We can update delivery reminder, peak. We can go ahead and do a registration for the for negative sales order, all these things we can do, right? So there are actions behind every button, and we have to incorporate all this action because it's a huge application, right? So that is why if you see this action pane, again under this action pane you will have this action pane time. So this structure remains same, but you can name it and you can design it accordingly. So the structure is, whenever I go ahead and add an action pane, so by default I have to create my action pane tabs. So everywhere if you go in the system, you will see under action pane, you will have action pane tab. The how you are using it, that is based on your design, form design. You are seeing this is also an action pane, right? And these are also action pane tabs. See, 1 2 3 4, these are also action pane tab, and under action pane you are adding these button groups, correct? And you are maintaining your logic and code, whatever you write under. If you can write there or any class, that's a different thing, but you, the structure remains same. It is also same. So it might look different, but this is also an action pane tab, and here is also we have this action pane, different tabs, right? And if you select this, so again these are my all my button groups, right? Main action button group, I think under here you will have this add line and all this button group, right? And under uh, WHS warehouse you will have this all button group where you will all these buttons. So all this thing, WHS is nothing but my warehouse, all these things, right? All these things are there, right? So the idea is, whenever we are creating this form, we should maintain this structure. And also, if you understand this, under one section we are maintaining first action pane, and then there is a small grid, right? This is a grid. What is this grid? This one, this part, right? This is a grid kind of data. All my lines I can go ahead and create add line, and I go ahead and create my line. So this is a grid structured data. Like grid means a list of data, like list of lines, correct? So that is one thing we can go ahead and do, right? So there is different like grid structured data. So I'll explain you, but I mean I have already explained. We have simple list and list page, right? So those are two different kind of grids. This is another kind of grid, and there are other ways of showing data. So this is the thing, right? From the structure point of view, okay? Okay, so these again, if you see the design layout, these are most of the major sections what we have understood, right? Under design, we have our groups. Under groups, we can have our tab, and every tab starts with the tab page, and under the tab page, we can add our button group. Similarly, if we have our action pane tab, this is another thing where we can showing you. Under this action pane, we have to maintain our action pane tabs. These are my tab 1 2 3 4, and under this action pane tab we have to create our own button groups. These are all button group 1 2 3 4, right? Okay, okay, this is the same structure which is being showed in a separate slide. I am created in this action pane and button group, and under this button group we are having all these buttons, right? So this is the structure: action pane, tab, button group 1, button group 2. Okay. Okay. Of the type of button, yeah, so there are few different types. So I think this is the right way of showing you. So how can we see that? If we go here, okay, there are a few button groups right here. If you go into a button group and if you add and create something, you will see different things like command button, menu item button. So menu item button is nothing but I can show a menu item against it. So menu item means, if you remember the thing, like the concept which you are discussing, once I create a form, I need to show that in the into my UI, correct? So for showing it or bringing that to my UI, I need to have some link, and that link is provided through a menu item button. So that menu item is actually, whenever I am creating a menu item, that I can attach to my menu item button, right? This is my menu item button. Command buttons are nothing but a predefined command. So if you go and see that this is a new button, which is a command is new. So let me show you this structure. Why it's not okay? See here, if you create a command button, by default you have these options. Create a command button, it shows you the options. Create new, all these commands are there. Delete, all the commands are there. So if you see it's a command is new, if you go and yes delete, you will see the command is delete record. Okay, so these properties are important. Okay, so we'll go to the form properties. Few of the important properties you will see in every design. There are few properties which are actually being maintained everywhere, so that we'll discuss, right? But you get the idea. What is my command button, what is my menu item button, and we have our custom buttons also. We can create and go ahead and create a button, and based on that, um, whatever we want to do, and based on our actions, we can write our logic behind that button, right? So this is one thing. The other thing is, okay, this drop the menu button. I'll show you what is a menu button. Is nothing but I mean, we can go ahead and add a menu against that button. See, this menu item is nothing but I create a form or I create a report and I can attach that to the my button. So it is a menu item button, and menu button is nothing but I can add a menu. Okay, and dialog button is so okay. This is how can I explain? Okay, there are some cases you see, right? So the once you click a button and it gives you prompt you to do something, right? So it prompts you to write some messages are there, and then you can click ahead and okay or cancel. So in those cases, those are drop dialog buttons, right? So maybe I can show you something right now. Okay. Okay, I don't remember if there are any drop dialog buttons are here, no, but we'll show. So it's nothing but once I click that button, it gives prompt me a dialog box, and it gives me some information. Okay, these are my information. Do you want to go ahead with it, not okay or cancel? So if you click on okay, there are some actions will be there, and if you cancel, so there will be no actions. So if so, that kind of button is kind of a drop dialog button. So that is what we are showing. Okay, so these are my major type of buttons, and these are the things which we will be learning. So menu item button, what is a menu item, that will learn like after a few minutes, but these are the important. Okay, toolbars is this form. Okay, so okay, this I'll show you. So previously actually it was an action pane strip, which we see, you have seen, right? These are my action pane. This is my action pane. So we have the action pane line strip. So these are kind of a, right now it's called as a toolbar, right? So name they have given action pane strip, but it is called a toolbar. So in the toolbar is actually you can add have this add, edit, and map buttons, all these things. So this is nothing but an address tool. So let me show you. Okay. This is the section. So this is what we are saying here. So this is previously it was called as an action pen strip, right? Right now they are calling it a toolbar, but maybe I mean the old name is also being used somewhere. So this is action pen strip where you can add this button. So it's like a small window where you add these small buttons, right? Edit, map, all these things. So map is for our addresses, but this is where you can use it. Okay. I was explaining you there are some different type of showing the grid data. Grid is nothing but it's like an consider this as an Excel data where you only have your rows and columns. So that is called grid here in Dynamics 365. So there are a few things like the styles which I are telling you. So we have this tabular style, this style, simple grid only, right? So what do I mean by each thing? So tabular, you can understand, is like by default every time you create a grid, it comes as a tabular type where we have the rows and column structure. right? So if you only have to simple read only, that means there will be no data, no, I mean no data creation or deletion or edit can happen. So that is a simple read, so user can just come and view the data, no action can be performed. So that is also style. And this second cell is list read, where we are storing major data, main data. So few examples. Okay, so yeah, these are the few things. So this is a list style of read, right? And this is a simple read only. Okay, so I think so an example would be better. Okay, this is a simple list, right? Simple list read, and this is what I call as a tabular read. So my data are stored in a table format where we have my columns and we have my rows as a data. Right? This is a simple table list data. Now, take an example of simple read data where I can like simply go ahead and just see some data and cannot perform any action. So let me show you that also. Okay. Yeah, this part of data or this part of data. Okay, here I have the admin access, so it's like it gives me this option. But I mean, okay, someone who has a write access, he can do that. But this data, if you see this data, this is simply read only data here. If you see this data, this is a simple read-only data, so that is kind of a simple read-only structure. So most of the cases, I mean, this is like the format we are using, and here is kind of a details view where we are seeing all the data. Right here we are seeing the data. So if you do a edit, okay, so if you do a edit, so the data can be edited from here actually. This structure cannot be edited. We cannot do anything here. So that is a simple read only structure. So this part, this read is nothing but a simple read. If I do an edit, I can go ahead and do this edit here. Okay. So let's take an example of if I create a new one. Let's say okay, project data. Okay. Anyway, but the idea is if we have to create something, some data. If I go ahead and create this create employment, okay. Right now there is some data related issue. This giving us an error. So let us not go there. But if we want to create this, this is a window comes up here. And after creation, if we want to do any edit or changes, it has to come from here, not from here. So this is my simple read-only structure. There is no change which I can perform here. Okay, so this is one example of a simple list structure. And the tabular we have discussed. List style is nothing but my like a list of data where it's just few of the data I can see, right? What can be an example? Okay. This section, there are no emails now. So this section is also a good example of this list simple read data. So once there is an email configured, so we can define our configure email system, and system can send email. So whenever there is an action performed, so maybe the user needs some notification, right, through their emails. So this is an email structure, correct? and I can go ahead and simply have all these emails here. So this is also read only data, simple read data. Okay, and this structure, this one, grid style, list style grid. This I don't remember like what to find that data, but it can be like it's a simple list kind of data. Okay, so here we only see our like employee number of contact number, and based on that I can see this kind of data. Okay, so this is a list of data. Okay. Okay. This is an example of this style of grid. Okay. So where I have in the left hand section, I can go ahead and create my perform my actions, but it's a data which is a simple list which gives me only few of the basic information, and the major information I have to go and create from here. So once I create a new warehouse, I create the number and everything, all this information, major information comes up here, and this list is nothing but simply showing the few of the major information, the number, site, and the why it is the name of the warehouse, everything. So this is a simple list kind of list style of. Okay. So we have do like completed this example. So yeah, best practices. I think we have already seen this, like the name of the form to main data source of the table. So most of the cases we do that, so that the names are in completely in parallel. So if I'm creating a table of maybe sales table data, and the form name can be the same, so which is like easy to identify. Auto default, this is for sizing. I mean, most of the cases this auto and default properties are what we can use. It's not something we can change frequently. And yeah, form statistics I've showed you we use for guidance, and cover all the controls for applied patterns. So this is nothing but it is saying that whenever I create a form, whatever controls or patterns we have selected, it is by default giving us this option to have those sections, and we have to use those sections. There is no other way. So that is the best practice of doing that. Okay. Okay, so few of the like questions, so I want everyone to take part of it. So yeah, so anyone, this one, button groups can be placed directly underneath the action pane.
Oh,
Is it true or false?
it seems to be true.
Yeah, it's actually true. We haven't seen few example, but it's true. So if you remember that customer form, that add address edit map, so that when you create that action pane, if you have big sections, if you can go ahead and create those action pane tab, right? If you do not have, so you can create a small action pane strip, and in that button groups can be added. Yeah, I mean, if you go literally, then it is a false, because you can directly I mean add that from the form design point of view. But ideally, if you look at the design of the form, it will come as a directly under that action pane. So yeah, so it we can do that actually. Okay. Okay, so setting the grid style property to auto, so by default it's a tabular style always. So always we should using the tabular form. Okay, so remember every time is this tabular, auto means a tabular, and this is the tabular style we are using on a 95% of the cases. So these are not something we use on a day-to-day basis or some basis. Form pattern applied. Yes, definitely we should have a form. Okay, I think I missed this question. Yeah. Pattern table, the pattern information panel provides the example with so everyone please read it out and try to answer. Yeah, actually, yeah, it is. I mean, I haven't shown you the build, but yeah, it allows actually. So it is nothing but the question is, so you the pattern we can apply, and by default Microsoft gives us few of these pattern orders, right? We have action. So if you create the details transaction form, it has this action pane, then it has this tabular like filter pane, and then we have those tab, and under that we have the tab page, and then we can add our group buttons with everything. So it is saying if you are not following that, is it going to throw you an error or something? Yeah, it will going to throw you error in the form design only. It will show you. Okay, whenever you start creating the form, it will show you that error. And if you would do the build, here it is saying if I create a build, it is going to uh, is it showing you an error, or if it is showing you that one, it will show me the form, but it will also show me that it's a wrong one. Okay, this is definitely true. And yeah, so okay, any guesses on this one? Okay, anyone, any guesses?
Create.
Yeah, actually it's B. It's, we have to run the form statistics actually, so we can see if the patterns and everything is working correctly or not. uh, or you can just run. I mean, if whenever you're creating that form, I think you have seen, right, in the below there is an window opens up and it shows you how you are creating that form, which sections you are adding, what buttons you are adding. So that's kind of a small preview window, or rather you can preview it by as a startup objects also. So that rebuild is not needed. The form patterns report is, I mean the form statistics is important because it gives me an idea if I have followed everything correctly or not. Okay, so I think this is not there. This is not needed. Rebuild not needed, and form statistics I want. Okay. Okay, if we are done with this one, so we'll start with the menu and the menu items. So, okay, so before that, so we'll just take a break for 2 minutes and then we'll start on the menu and the menu items. Okay. Okay. Hi everyone. So we'll start with the menus now. So menu and menu items. So before discussing, so I think we just can go to the drawing board and we can see how the structure. So this is how we create whenever I design something. This starts with my data type table and then forms, which we discuss now. The form is related to menu item. Menu item is needed to actually to bring that form into my UI, which is my interface, and then the menu. Correct. So menus are nothing but if I have explained you, these are my menus. So if you go here, these are my menus. So it's these modules. These modules are nothing but my menus. Okay? These are my all my menus available. If you remember, I told you that most of the cases, 99% of the business cases, when we do our implementation, we do not go and create a new menu actually, because most of our work we do and on the existing application. In some cases we do have to create a menu, then I can go ahead and create a new menu which will appear here. But if I have to create some, let's say in account receivable, you have to create a new order form, some kind of or new kind of a report, right? This will be the right example. So report. So reports are something which is this. So many reports are already provided by out of the box application. Right now, you assume that the customer wants a different report and which is a new customized report, and it's not provided here. So I have to develop something, develop a report, and I have to bring that report into my account receivable menu. So what will I do? I will create a report, SSRS report. I will have all the report objects. I'll create a menu item, which is an output menu item. I'll explain that later, but that menu item will be linked to this account receivable menu. So how do I do that? First, I go ahead and create a report. Under report, we have reports, and under the report we create this report. Let's say I have this report created here. That report should be attached to a menu item, a new menu item which is of type output. I'll explain this now, what are these three types. But for report I am using output. I created an output menu item, and this output menu item will be actually attached to my menu, which is my account receivable menu. And you know, like, we cannot go ahead and directly change this. We have to create an extension. Let's say for account receivable, I go ahead and create an extension for an account receivable, and I attach that menu to that menu item to this menu. So then if we open up this our window, then I will see, okay, this is a here after COD outstanding, then we will see a new report, maybe our custom report one. It will appear here. So this is the structure. This is how we are following. So what is menu and what is menu item? I hope this is clear, right? So this is my complete menu, and all these are menu items. Once you open this form, once you open click on here, then it opens up this form, or this is a menu item. This is the form, right? And this is my menu item. All these are my menu items. Okay. This is the structure. Okay. So yeah, this is a structure which we have we have discussed already. So I have my menu item. So under the menu item properties, which I will show you now, what are the important things which are need to be identified, what type of menu items are there. And then for menu properties, we define few menu properties, we create the extension, and then we do the build, right? This is the structure that we follow. Okay, three different important menu item types. So let me write it down, and this is extremely important because these are, like, you will be using it till the last day of your development maybe. So this is very important. What are the three important menu item types and when it is used? Okay. Okay, these three are menu item types available for Dynamics 365. So menu item type means I have, and let's assume, so take an example of all customer form. I have showed you, if I open this form, there's an open window opens up. There's so many buttons in that form and I can do so many actions there, correct? So that is one type of menu item, and we define that as a display menu item, which is applicable to forms, regular forms. Whenever I create a regular form, these are applicable to my display menu item. So all the display things which you are seeing here as a display, it is showing it. It's all these things are display menu item. Third thing, let's assume we have reports. Let's run some. So we have a report which is called customer aging reports. Okay. So another customer, if you open this report, okay. See, this is a window opens up, correct? And I have all these parameters available to me, and I can define all these parameters through the report which I created, correct? And by default, these sections come automatically. Destination means if I want to run this report on the screen, or if I want to download that report in a PDF, Excel, all these options are there. But records to include means these are my filter criteria here. All these filter criteria. Then again, that also I can define. But to give you an idea, so whenever I run a report, and these are my SSRS report in the system, which is a basic primary reporting structure of Dynamics 365. So whenever I run this report, this normal display menu item, which is used for my forms, will not come to use. I have to use a output menu item. This is my output menu item, and this is applicable to my reports. Okay, so which is where I can go ahead, add my filters and everything, right? If you see my normal any kind of form, if you open up, right, if you go to a payment, let's say customers, and you go all customer forms, it opens up this form, right, where all the data can be entered.